So the Sonos Era 100 was announced alongside the Sonos Era 300. Now the Era 100 doesn't have Dolby Atmos support, but the Sonos Era 100 is still a great sounding speaker. Nonetheless, let's see how the Sonos Era 100 stacks up to both the HomePod Gen 2 and the Bose Portable smart speaker. Regarding pricing, the Era 100 is the most affordable speaker here, retailing for $250. Next up is the HomePod Gen 2, which retails for $300. And finally, there's the Bose Portable smart speaker, which is the oldest speaker here, and it retails for $400. Now, this speaker is more expensive than these other two speakers because it does have a built-in battery. Nonetheless, I do expect the Bose to go on sale on a regular basis, whereas with the Sonos and HomePod, not so much, and if they do, not by much. Nonetheless, if you want to pick any of these speakers up, they'll be linked down below. And if you want to further support the channel, pick up a big head approved hat. It helps the unsponsored and unbiased reviews coming. We've got trucker hats and snapbacks. Now first, I think it's very important that we talk about connectivity. Now with the HomePod, this is a speaker that's meant to be used with an iPhone because first off, you do need an iPhone to set it up. And also it has a very heavy reliance on AirPlay for you to actually stream music to it. Now the Sonos is another speaker that is also best used with an iPhone because it also relies very heavily on AirPlay for you to stream music to it. However, if you are an Android user, you can always use the Sonos by downloading the Sonos app to your phone and you can stream music to it through Sonos' app. Or you can always connect to the Sonos speaker by using Bluetooth. But then there's the Bose, which plays nice with both iPhone and Android. The Bose has AirPlay 2 support, so as long as you're connected to the same Wi-Fi network as this Bose speaker, you can stream music to it, just like how you can with the Sonos and HomePod. But also, the Bose has Chromecast support, so if you're an Android user and you're connected to the same Wi-Fi network as the speaker, you can always stream music to it, just like how you can with an iPhone using AirPlay. But also, the Bose does have Bluetooth. Now, I know it sounds pretty basic that I'm having to point out that the Sonos and Bose have Bluetooth, but this is actually a pretty big deal because Bluetooth is actually pretty new for Sonos. And personally, I still think that it's very important for your speaker to have Bluetooth because this way you can always share your speaker with someone without having to share your Wi-Fi password. Now, continuing on the topic of connectivity, the Era 100 is the only speaker here where you can actually use it with a wired connection. However, if you want to use a wired connection with the speaker, you do have to buy Sonos' USB-C to audio jack adapter, which is sold separately. And personally, I do feel that this is rather ridiculous, but with these other two speakers, you can only use them wirelessly. Now, still continuing on the topic of connectivity, we now have to discuss the speaker's home theater setup capabilities. Now, with the HomePod, if you were to get two HomePods and an Apple 4K TV, then you'll be able to use these two HomePods as a home theater setup. Whereas with the Sonos, if you were to get two of the same speakers, you can always hook them up to either your Sonos Arc or Sonos Beam Gen 2 and use them as rear satellite surround sound speakers. But then there's the Bose. Now you can always pair your Bose speaker to your Bose soundbar and they'll play in sync, but your Bose speaker isn't going to behave like a rear satellite speaker like with Sonos' setup. Next up, there's the voice assistants on these speakers. Now with the HomePod, you can only use Siri because Apple, duh. But then there's the Sonos where you can use Sonos' own voice assistant, and this is going to allow you to control your Sonos speaker with just your voice, or you can always use your Sonos speaker as an Alexa smart speaker. But then there's the Bose where you can use either Alexa or a Google Assistant. But finally, there is one major difference between the Bose and these other two speakers, and that's this speaker does have a built-in battery in it, so you can use it around the house or outdoors, whereas with these other two speakers, they have to be plugged in. Now, the Bose does have an advertised battery life of 12 hours, but realistically, we're looking at a battery life of around 8 hours. Now, you can either simply have the speaker constantly plugged in via its USB-C port, or you can buy Bose's charging cradle, which is sold separately, but this way, the speaker is always going to be connected to power, and any time that you want to take it on the go with you, it's going to have a full battery ready to go, which honestly just makes the speaker a lot more versatile than these other two smart speakers. But with compatibility, connectivity, and voice assistance out of the way, we can finally start talking about how these speakers actually sound. Regarding speaker setups, the Era 100 is a frontward firing speaker, and it has a frontward firing woofer and dual frontward firing tweeters. Next, there's the HomePod, which is a 360-degree speaker, and it has an upward firing woofer and a total of 5 tweeters going all around the speaker. And finally, there's the Bose, which is also a 360-degree speaker, and it has a downward firing woofer and a total of 3 passive radiators. Now when it comes to placement, ideally, since both the HomePod and Bose are 360-degree speakers, you want to place them in the center of the room. Whereas since the Era 100 is a frontward-firing speaker, you can place it on the borders of your room, and you can also place the speaker either in a cabinet or on a shelf. Now, before we do jump into the sound test, I do have to point out that both the Sonos and Bose do sound rather flat when you first take them out of the box. But you can always go in and adjust the bass and treble on this speaker, and personally, I like to use this speaker with its bass raised by 5 clicks, and I like to use the Bose with the bass raised to 30. But now we're going to jump into the sound test, and all of these speakers are playing at 75% volume.
Left uncovered, I'm thinking about 4-leaf clovers. I've got composure, silver coin. You hold me, turn me over right now, but expect to forget about it. Watches the breeze, burns gold and smoke that you've stolen. Feels like it's my fortune that you're folding.
Now first, I think we need to address max volume performance on these speakers. Now in general, all of these speakers are going to be better suited for a small or medium-sized room. But the HomePod gets the least loudest here at max volume. Now the Bose does get impressively loud for its size, but this speaker does lean towards a brighter sound signature. So at those louder volumes, this speaker can sound rather nasally. But finally, there's the Era 100. Not only does this speaker get noticeably louder than the HomePod at max volume, it also sounds fuller at max volume than the Bose. So if max volume performance is very important to you, then you're going to want to go with the Era 100. But now let's talk about the actual sound quality of these speakers. Now, since the Bose doesn't have any built-in tweeters, I can't help but notice that the Bose sounds the most narrow here, because since it doesn't have those tweeters to help separate the highs, its instrument separation just isn't as good as with these other two speakers. However, the Bose does have an impressive amount of physicality in its bass all on its own. Next up, there's the Era 100, which does sound noticeably more open than the Bose, and that's partly because this speaker does have built-in tweeters, so it does a better job of separating the mids and the highs. My only critique about the Era 100 is that its physicality in its bass isn't very impressive. However, with this speaker, you can always pair one of Sonos's wireless subs to it, and then that way, you're really going to be able to feel your music. However, from a cost basis standpoint, I don't think this would make a lot of sense unless you already have a Sonos wireless subwoofer, maybe because you already have a Sonos soundbar for your TV. But finally, there's the HomePod. Now, even though this speaker does get the least loudest here at max volume, the HomePod does have the best instrument separation here, making it sound noticeably more open than these other two speakers. And unlike the Era 100, the HomePod does have an impressive amount of physicality in its bass all on its own. The HomePod really just likes to rattle whatever table it's sitting on. But also, the thing about the HomePod is that it's the only speaker here that has Dolby Atmos support. Now, what Dolby Atmos is, instead of your music just coming out of the left side and right side of your speaker and everything just being on the same plane, Dolby Atmos is going to give your music a sense of verticality to it. Now, everything doesn't automatically have Dolby Atmos support, but whether you're listening to Dolby Atmos content with the HomePod or not, the HomePod is still going to sound noticeably more open than both the Era 100 and the Bose Portable smart speaker. But with all that being said, if you're trying to choose between any of these speakers, then the HomePod 2 is the best sounding speaker here because it does have the best instrument separation and it does have an impressive amount of physicality in its bass all on its own. However, the HomePod is the quietest speaker here at max volume and it is going to struggle to fill a large room with music. And also just keep in mind, the HomePod is meant to be used with an iPhone. Now, the Era 100 is also best used with an iPhone, but with the Era 100, you can also use it with an Android device. But for the best experience, I do feel that you should use this speaker with an iPhone. Now, sound quality wise, this speaker gets louder than the HomePod, and even at those higher volumes, the speaker still sounds balanced. It doesn't get nasally like with the Bose. But the speaker doesn't have as good instrument separation as the HomePod, and the physicality in its bass is a little lacking. And finally, there's the Bose. Now, this is technically the worst sounding speaker here because it does sound the most narrow, and at higher volumes, it does sound nasally because there's no details in the mids and highs. But this is the most versatile speaker here, specifically because it has a built-in battery. So you can take the speaker on the go with you, and it doesn't have to strictly live plugged into the wall outlet like with these other two speakers. But also, this speaker plays nice with both iPhone and Android because it has AirPlay 2 support, and it also has Chromecast, and it also has Bluetooth. If you made it this far, I guess you enjoyed the video, so hit the like button and get subscribed. If you want to pick any of the products up, they'll be linked down below. And if you want to further support the channel, check out the merch. I made some shirts and hoodies that look and feel great. And you know I can be very particular, so I'll only slap my name on something if I'm really proud of it.